The 2018 FIM Ice Speedway World Championship gets underway in a new venue as Astana replaces Almaty for our latest trip to Kazakhstan. Final one provides the first of 10 scoring days in the series, which opens in its furthest eastern destination before moving gradually west through Russia to Germany and the Netherlands. A total of 15 permanent riders have already gone through a knockout process of national selection and 2 FIM qualifiers to make the grade for the 53rd edition of the World Championship, leaving us with 6 represented nations throughout the season. New to the lineup are Martin Hiltonen of Sweden, who makes his debut, and Jasper Iverma, the Dutchman, earning a full-time call-up after a lone wildcard appearance last year. I'm really pleased to have qualified for the World Championship because it's only 1 year since I took part in my first ice speedway race. Everything's gone really quickly and I know I'm at the bottom for now, but I'm still learning and this is the best place for me to do that. Another surprise inclusion in the 2018 lineup is Sergei Karachintsev. The 2015 European champion makes his return to the World Championship for the first time since a one-off wildcard appearance in 2013 after eliminating Igor Kononov in the Russian Championship. Last season I finally ironed out my previous mistakes and started a new training program. Now I feel a lot more confident and I hope for better results. The favourites in 2018 will be the 3 riders who already have 5 world titles between them. Reigning world number 5 Daniil Ivanov won back-to-back titles in 2013 and 2014. Dmitry Komitsevich took the 2016 title, but saw his crown wrestled away by Dmitry Koltykov, who comes into this season as 2 times and reigning world champion. Last season was a challenging one with injury, but I'm glad I made it through anyway. The past is in the past. This season is new, and I continue to set high aims and hope for an improved result. In 2016, I was very well prepared and determined, and this season I'm eager to regain the title. I've put in a lot of preparation, and the Russian Championship this year was very challenging, but it will be impossible to predict the results. I'm very well prepared for my title defense. Physically, I trained in motocross throughout the summer, and mechanically as well. Together with new sponsors and my new club, we've put together new equipment to challenge again for the title. The 6th staging of the Kazakhstan Grand Prix sees the competition leave Almaty for the first time to only a 2nd different arena in the country. The 8,000 capacity Alau Ice Palace opened in 2011 and fans at the 400-metre circuit were on standby for their first taste of ice speedway action. Two changes to the lineup before the first wheel is turned with the withdrawal of Jan Klotowski and Dinar Valev through injury. Permanent reserves Stefan Svensson and Charlie Ebner receive their first call-ups of the campaign. The standard format for each round sees riders accumulating points for the World Championship in every heat, meeting every other competitor once over 20 heats, with the top 8 scorers earning an additional scoring opportunity in the semi-final. Heat 1 provided the strongest lineup of the opening round of heats in Astana, with 3 Russian riders settling in off the inside 3 starting positions. The race also provided the first surprise of the campaign, with Sergei Karachintsev hitting the front to get the better of former world champion Daniil Ivanov. Out at the back, Niklas Svensson was overhauled by wildcard Andrei Shishagov for the single point. The 36-year-old Russian, a former European champion, failed to make the cut for the World Championship qualifiers with 10th in the Russian rounds, which showed the depth of talent in his home country with a strong score on day 1. Heat 2 was settled from the start. The 2 most recent World Championship winners, Dmitry Komitsevich and Dmitry Koltykov, hitting the front. The reigning world champion was unable to make it across from the outside to lead the 2016 winner, and it was Komitsevich who held on under pressure to the finish. Ove Ledstrom took third, with Jasper Iverma failing to make an impression on his debut as a permanent World Championship rider. Hans Webber provided the entertainment in Heat 3 with what turned out to be his best ride of the day. Webber got his third season as a World Championship rider, off to a strong start with overtaking moves, first on Charlie Ebner for third and then on Günther Bauer for second. Germany's top men have had a well-documented rivalry in recent years, but it was the 33-year-old Webber who held sway this time, and Bauer who then dropped to the back. A challenging day for the former world number 2 after injury in the qualifiers that left him looking some way short of his best. Franz Zorn became the second consecutive Heat winner from the unfancied outside gate with a start-to-finish victory in Heat 4 that saw him home as the second Western European rider to take the checkered flag in Astana. But it was the contest for third position that produced the greatest spark in the race, with Harald Simon taking on the faster starting Jimmy Olsen. Austrian veteran Simon appeared to have dispatched the Swedish youngster in straightforward fashion on his favoured inside line, only to then lose control whilst attempting to chase down Stefan Svensson for seconds. Olsen now had the momentum that Simon did not, and tried to make use of it with a last bend cutback before losing out narrowly on the line. Four of the 5 Russian riders sat in the top 8 positions after the opening round of heats. Wildcard Andrei Shishagov the exception, having been restricted to third by 2 of his fellow countrymen in Heat 1. Daniil Ivanov became the third different Russian race winner in Heat 5 as he got the better of 2 of the round 1 winners. Dmitry Komitsevich moved level on points with Ivanov after taking second place, while Heat 4 winner Franz Zorn was surprisingly relegated to a non-scoring outing. Well-crafted lap 3 move from Ivanov to take his first race victory of the campaign. Andrei Shishagov took a comfortable victory in Heat 6 ahead of Austria's Harald Simon and Charlie Ebner. Ebner had some difficulties recording his second point of the match as Jasper Iverma of the Netherlands put in a more competitive outing. As Ebner attempted to build up speed on the outside to combat his fellow countryman's inside line, Dutchman Iverma surprised him coming into lap 3 and snatched third place. The former Moto3 rider failed to hold the line and Ebner swept back past on the final lap for the odd point. Ove Ledstrom put in a strong first lap in Heat 7 but couldn't do enough to hold on against Sergei Karachintsev, the Russian moving into a provisional lead in the standings with the second race win. Behind them, 2 of round 1's non-scorers raced over their first point of the day, Günther Bauer initially holding the place, but then overtaken by Jimmy Olsen on lap 3. Only one of the round 1 race winners managed a second victory in the second block of heats, Martin Hara Hiltunen becoming the third to suffer a defeat. Dmitry Koltukov took Heat 8 with Hara Hiltunen having missed the start and trapped in the pack with his fellow countrymen Nicholas and Stefan Svensson. Veteran Stefan held second place early on, but he was relegated to 4th in the matter of 2 turns, and Hara Hiltunen then sprung an impressive pass for second on Nicholas, an impressive cutback move off turn 2. Enough to move on to 5 points from his first 2 World Championship rides. Four riders sat tied on 3 points, provisionally covering the last of the qualification positions after the second round of heats. With Günther Bauer yet to get off the mark, his hopes of progression were already looking remote. Three riders on just 2 points between them, including scoreless Jasper Iverma and Günther Bauer, were predictably beaten by Daniil Ivanov in Heat 9. But the race for the minor placings was settled by a disqualification for Iverma in the initial staging, as he connected with Stefan Svensson and brought him down heavily. Svensson picked himself up well to take second in the rerun, with Günther Bauer successfully recording his first point score of the meeting. Martin Hara-Hiltunen produced one of the biggest surprises of the weekend with his victory over Dmitry Komitsevich and Andrei Shishigov in Heat 10. The Swede showed genuine mastery of the inside line on the opening lap to hit the front, having sat behind both Russians on the first turn and moved joint top of the standings alongside Heat 9 winner Danil Ivanov. That ranking was short-lived though, as Sergei Karachintsev maintained his maximum hopes with a third straight win. Dmitry Koltukov had made the faster start with the favourable inside gate, but Karachintsev picked him off brilliantly, leaving the reigning world champion with 2 defeats from his first 3 rides. Meanwhile, a separate race out at the back saw Harold Simmons steal the single point from Hans Weber, who suffered his first non-scoring ride of the day. Franz Zorn's hopes of qualification took a dent with a second successive non-scoring ride from Gate 1, Ove Ledstrom securing a Heat 12 win that put him within touching distance of a semi-final space. Zorn held second until lap 2, when Niklas Svensson forced his way through and Charlie Ebner took advantage to move third. Martin Hara-Hiltunen remained in touch with his Russian rivals after 3 rides, Ove Ledstrom and Stefan Svensson, ensuring only 2 different nations were represented in the provisional qualification positions, with 8 heats remaining. 2 of the top 3 in the meeting standings lined up against one another in Heat 13, and it was Danil Ivanov who swept imperiously from the outside gate to a third race win to take the provisional lead. Martin Hara-Hiltunen was restricted to only his second defeat of the meeting, but he put in a good damage limitation ride by getting the better of Ove Ledstrom, and the Heat 12 winner continued to slip backwards through the field, Harold Simmons finding a way through on the inside line on the final 2 laps. Dmitry Koltukov booked his place in the semi-finals with victory in Heat 14 ahead of Andrei Shishigov. The race settled down early on, but Shishigov kept up a good pursuit and moved on to 7 points, making himself a likely top 8 candidate. Meanwhile, Günther Bauer saw his hopes of further progression ended with a third last place finish of the meeting, Franz Zorn scoring his first point since Heat 4 at his expense. Sergei Karachintsev remained unbeaten after a Heat 15 that saw him secure his semi-final position. Dmitry Komitsevich restricted to a third successive defeat, but doing enough to move through alongside his fellow countrymen. Meanwhile, Stefan Svensson's qualification chances were dealt a blow when he lost third place on lap 2. The second non-scoring ride of the day left the veteran under pressure ahead of his final ride. Hans Weber's fast-fading semi-final ambitions were extinguished with a mechanical retirement in his 4th outing, but there was far worse in store in Heat 16. Niklas Svensson looked set for a win that would have reignited his charge towards the semi-final stages, until a lap 3 crash that saw him disqualified as the cause of the stoppage, and left on just 3 points from 4 rides. Jimmy Olsen was the rider to take advantage, and after scoring just 1 point from his first 3 rides, he moved on to 4. But his remaining heat draw left him unlikely to progress further. With 1 outing remaining for each rider, the top 5 in the standings were already secure in their semi-final places, with Andrei Shishigov also looking likely to move through. But with 7 riders separated by just 2 points covering the last qualification position, the minor placings were to be settled in the final 4 heats of the day. For either Jimmy Olsen or Charlie Ebner to qualify to the semi-finals, they needed 2 points, and therefore for one of the Russians, Danil Ivanov or Dmitry Koltukov, to slip up in Heat 17. But they had no such luck, finishing 3rd and 4th, Evner beating Olsen to the single point, and both Western Europeans eliminated. Up front, Koltakov made a brilliant pass on Ivanov, moving level with his rival on points in the process. Stefan Svensson was the rider in focus for Heat 18, needing 2 points to move into the provisional qualification zone, and he was unfortunate not to get them. He'd made the start before Ove Ledstrom clattered into him in the initial running, and then in the restaging, he again held the lead before succumbing to successive overtakes. Andrei Shishagov moved predictably through for his second race win and to hit the double-figure mark. But Svensson still sat in second place and in a provisional qualification position until reserve rider Vladimir Cheblakov, in for the withdrawn Hans Weber, pulled off a shock lap 3 overtake to eliminate the Swedes. Having defeated each of his Russian competitors, Sergei Karachintsev was the favourite for Heat 19, but he was denied a maximum score with another surprise race win from Martin Harahiltonen. The Swede continued to delight his strong travelling support with his overtaking finesse, his patience over 2 laps, eventually rewarded as he hit the front for a third time. Franz Zorn, back in third, was left to rue earlier drop points as he moved on to just 5. Harold Simon needed just a point to be sure of his qualification after Stefan Svensson's Heat 18 disaster, and the Austrian did enough with a second place finish. Restricted to third in Heat 20 after his Heat 16 disqualification, Niklas Svensson was eliminated. No great surprises in that all 5 Russians moved through to the semi-finals on double-figure tallies. Martin Harahiltonen, Harold Simon and Ove Ledstrom, the Western Europeans, joining them in the final 8. Semi-final number 1, and a real chance that Sweden's Martin Harahiltonen could make the final in his World Championship debut. He lines up in the easier of the 2 semi-finals, where the inside 2 start positions are an exact repeat of those from Heat 19. Gate 1 in red, Sergei Karachintsev, runner-up in that heat, his only defeat in 5 rides so far. Gate 2 in blue, Martin Harahiltonen, the revelation of the meeting. Andrei Shishagov goes off Gate 3 in white, 2 wins to his name, the wildcard from Russia. The outside gate Harold Simon, yet to win a heat, bidding for his first grand final appearance since 2013. Semi-final 1 gets underway. Good starts off gates 1 and 3. The 2 Russians are away well. Martin Harahiltonen cutting back to the inside line, coming off turn 2. Tries to drill a move down the inside on the back straight. Defended well by Shishagov, who holds on to second place. Sergei Karachintsev bursting away out in front. The race is over. The second qualification position from semi-final number 1. Sweden's Martin Harahiltonen at the moment set to drop out at this semi-final stage. He carves his way back to the inside line, again coming off turn 4. It's been a good defensive ride from Andrei Shishagov so far. Runs a little wide coming off turn number 2. Harahiltonen seizes his opportunity. Again, the pair clash down the back straight and straight up the back of Shishagov into turn number 3. Martin Harahiltonen, he's going to find it hard to get back on terms from there. Andrei Shishagov holding the inside line. The Swede builds it up slightly wider around turns 1 and 2. Shishagov has gone defensive, holds the inside, and blasting all the way around him, Martin Harahiltonen with one of the best rides of the day so far. He celebrates as he comes over the line. What an outstanding effort that was from the Swede. He battled, he clashed with Shishagov twice, and finally passes him on the final turn to qualify from semi-final 1. The series' 3 former world champions meet here in semi-final 2, and at least one will miss out on a place in the final. In red, it's Dmitry Koltakov, defeated by Kometsevic and Karachintsev in the heats. He holds that favourable inside gate. Alongside him, Daniil Ivanov, one of only 2 former Kazakhstan Grand Prix winners lining up here today. The other lining up on his inside. Gate 3 in white, Dmitry Kometsevic got the better of Koltakov in Heat 2, but hasn't shown that pace since. And Ove Ledstrom, somewhat unfortunate to have qualified into this lineup as a result of back-to-back non-scoring rides. Semi-final 2 gets underway. The favourites on the inside 3 gates. Rocket ship start from Dmitry Kometsevich, who gets there first. Challenged now on the inside line by Dmitry Koltykov, who sits in second, but not for much longer as Koltykov comes through down the inside into turn 3 to lead at the end of the opening lap. It's Koltykov versus Kometsevich, the two regular rivals over the last couple of seasons, with the man they deposed, Daniil Ivanov, down in third position. Ivanov at the moment focusing on the inside line, does appear to be closing in on Dmitry Kometsevich, with Koltykov pulling away out in front, and we may have a race on our hands for second position as Ivanov builds up his speed and his momentum. Kometsevich is running wider coming off the turns, and Ivanov has closed quite dramatically over that last lap, and he's now within striking distance. Ivanov in blue on the inside, Kometsevich in white on the outside. It's a head-to-head duel for the last of the qualification positions through to the grand final. Koltykov takes top spot, drag race down to the line, and Dmitry Kometsevich just holds on. Good ride, particularly on the last couple of laps there from Daniil Ivanov, but he couldn't quite get there. It's Dmitry Koltykov who takes the checkered flag, Kometsevich qualifying alongside him, Ivanov and Ledstrom eliminated in semi-final 2. So today's 4 finalists are also the event's top scorers. Sergei Karachintsev in his first Grand Prix for 5 years, straight back into the final. Winner of semi-final 1 and the current top scorer goes in red. Dmitry Koltykov, gate 2 in blue, 3 wins in succession for him. Gate 3 in white, Martin Hara-Hiltunen, the only rider to have beaten Karachintsev all meeting. Can he pull off a similar exploit here? Gate 4 in yellow, Dmitry Kometsevich, never a winner here in Kazakhstan, one of his few less successful destinations. So Astana's first ever World Championship final is decided here in the 23rd race of the day. Karachintsev, Koltykov, Hara-Hiltunen and Kometsevich, the lineup for the final, which gets underway. Even break as you'd expect in the final. Good start from Hara-Hiltunen, but Koltykov's got there first and shoves the Swede wide, down into second position, gets some lift down the back straight, and Karachintsev seizes the advantage, runs Hara-Hiltunen wide, creates space for Kometsevich as well, and the Swede's gone to the back. The Russians in the top 3 and the podium positions. Through down the inside now comes Kometsevich to relegate Karachintsev down to third position, and having dropped hardly any points during the heat stages, Karachintsev has now gone to the back. Hara-Hiltunen through into third position. Great ride there. Building up his speed around the outside line, Kometsevich with a poor run off turn 2. And Hara-Hiltunen comes from 4th to 2nd. The race leader, Dmitry Koltykov, bursting away. But the main story of today's event has been the outstanding performance of Martin Hara-Hiltunen, and he's going to get the better of 2 Russians and make a podium appearance on his World Championship debut. Confident enough to go wide on the final 2 turns. Koltykov wins it, but it's Martin Hara-Hiltunen who celebrates in second position, Dmitry Kometsevich in third, and Sergei Karachintsev bullied in the end as he was relegated down to 4th position. Back-to-back wins for Dmitry Koltykov in his final 4 rides, but it's Martin Hara-Hiltunen who gets the bumps and celebrates with a well-deserved podium position on his World Championship debut. So Dmitry Koltykov takes victory and finishes as top scorer, leaving with a 2-point championship lead over Sergei Karachintsev and Martin Hara-Hiltunen. I'm not really satisfied with my results today, even with third in the final. I had second place, and I didn't expect the young Swedish rider to pass me. But he's a great rider, and I'm happy for him. Now I will turn my attentions to try and do my best tomorrow. I just rode like I always do, and that turned out to be enough today. I know I've won today, but I'm a bit dissatisfied with my points in the heats. In Heat 1, I was beaten by Dmitry Kometsevich, and then again in Heat 11. Anyway, it's only the first race of the season, so I've saved myself a little bit for the coming events, and I hope to do better tomorrow. Dmitry Koltykov takes his 16th Grand Prix win, his second in Kazakhstan, and with it remains the man to beat in the Ice Speedway World Championship. After a demanding first day at a venue brand new to Ice Speedway, riders returned with more knowledge of setups and racing lines that had proven similar to indoor rink venues Insel and Heerenveen on the opening day. Austria's Franz Zorn was hoping to put that to good use after a disappointing first meeting that saw him miss the semi-finals on just 5 points. Meanwhile, Andrei Shishagov and Sergei Karachintsev were among 5 Russian semi-finalists at the first time of asking and were expected to progress again on day 2. Karachintsev's first day had been particularly spectacular, with points dropped in just 2 rides, but he missed out on a podium place after underperforming in the final. I'm riding with an injury from the Russian Championship, which I know may influence my riding here, and I made one mistake in the final yesterday. Of course, I'll do my best today, but we have a strategy, and there are still 4 finals after this one. The other unexpected star of the first day of the season was Sweden's Martin Habre-Hiltunen, who finished second on his World Championship debut and came into the campaign's second meeting, just 2 points behind series leader Dmitry Koltukov. Two of the highest 3 scorers from the opening day of the season met in Heat 1 to get the second day of competition underway in Astana. Sergei Karachintsev off the inside gate, Dmitry Koltukov off gate 3. And it was Koltukov whose summer motocross training clearly paid off as he jetted away from the start for the whole shot. Karachintsev was unable to make best use of his seemingly favourable starting position. Out at the back, meanwhile, Jasper Iverma looked set for only his second scoring ride of the weekend before he went down heavily and gifted a point to Charlie Ebner. All Swedish Heat 2 demonstrated Martin Habre-Hiltunen's superiority among his countrymen in Astana, but was more notable for the fight between father and son at the back. Jimmy Olsen relegated Stefan and Niklas Svensson into the minor placings with successive inside overtakes. Veteran 7-times national champion Stefan continued his trend of slipping backwards in his rides, dropping eventually to last. Harold Simon rode well to take second position in Heat 3 ahead of Andrei Shishagov. The Russian, one of 3 Day 1 semi-finalists lining up in the third heat, missed the start and fought his way through to second, only for Simon to respond with a strong inside move and hold on for the 2 race points. Hans Weber pulled off one of the shocks of the weekend with a last-to-first victory in Heat 4. Having withdrawn in the latter stages of Day 1, Weber bounced back with an early pass on Günther Bauer for third, then an inside move on Ove Ledstrom, and finally an aggressive overtake on Dmitry Gomitsevich. The Russian was left none too pleased with the German strategy of running him up to the bales and forcing him to back off, but it proved enough to stop him from coming back at the leader in the closing stages, and he was forced to settle for seconds. Hans Weber's surprise Heat 4 win gave an unusual look to the standings, although 6 of Day 1 semi-finalists had already moved into the top 8 in their opening outings. Hans Weber took 2 rides in succession as he lined up for Heat 5, but he went from hero to zero in his second outing. Having completely missed the start off the inside gate, he successfully forced his way past Niklas Svensson, but that resulted in the stoppage of the race, with the Swede having damaged the outer barrier. Another similarly poor start followed for Weber, Sergei Karachintsev taking the whole shot off gate 2 and Harold Simon slotting in behind him. Again, Weber was off in swift pursuit, but his race and meeting only lasted as far as the end of the opening lap as he came down heavily into the barrier. The the collision forcing his withdrawal from the remainder of the meeting. Home reserve Vladimir Cheblikov received his second call-up of the weekend as Jasper Iverma failed to line up in time following his Heat 1 fall, and the Kazakh did well to score after a slow start. He closed in on and passed Stefan Svensson and looked set for a single-point score until the late retirement of Andrei Shishigov from the lead. Ove Ledstrom took a gifted race victory, Cheblikov inherited second, and Shishigov's 3 drop points proved critical to his meeting score charts. 4 of the top 5 in the championship standings took to the track together in Heat 7, a heat of equal strength to a potential final. And the riders remained in close proximity to one another throughout. Dmitry Koltskov edging past Daniil Ivanov for a second consecutive win, and Heat 2 winner Martin Hara-Hiltunen earning a consolation point by relegating Dmitry Komitsevich to the back. Dmitry Koltskov showing the form that took him to a second Russian championship at the start of the season, to victory in the first final of the 2018 World Championship. Jimmy Olsen completed the second round of heats with a race victory, achieved with a lap 1 overtake on the fast-starting Franz Zorn. The Austrian's disastrous weekend continued as he slipped from first to last, having dropped into the battle at the back between Günther Bauer and Charlie Ebner. Bauer held third early on, but his persistence with the outside line was his undoing as Ebner came through, and when Zorn lost control and his steel shoe, his fellow countryman inherited second place. Strong start for Sweden's youngsters, in particular Heat 8 winner Jimmy Olsen. Meanwhile, with 2 non-scoring rides to open the meeting, Franz Zorn's struggles continued in Astana. Daniil Ivanov suffered his second consecutive defeat as Sergei Karachintsev made it back-to-back wins in Heat 9. Behind them, veterans Stefan Svensson and Günther Bauer, on just 2 points between them after the opening 2 rounds, looked a pale reflection of their former selves, Bauer making it through for the odd point, but moving on to a total of just 2. Franz Zorn finally picked up his first points of the meeting with second place in Heat 10 behind expected race winner Dmitry Komitsevich. The former champion's much-needed 3 points hauled him up from outside of the provisional qualification positions and back into contention. Meanwhile, Zorn looked something closer to his usual self, with Niklas Svensson and Jasper Iverma behind him. Heat 11 produced an entertaining scrap between Harold Simon and Ove Ledstrom over second place, behind pre-race favourite Dmitry Koltskov, who kept alive his maximum hopes with a third win. No great margin ever separated Simon from Ledstrom, the Swede with the advantage at the end of the second lap, with the Austrian working well on the shortest route around the turns. Just when Simon appeared to have consolidated his position though, Ledstrom fought back with a determined move into turn 3 for the final time. The Austrian held on by less than the width of a tyre at the checkered flag. Andrei Shishigov looked set to make amends for his round 2 retirement with a Heat 12 victory, but Martin Hara-Hiltunen had other ideas and stalked him throughout before pouncing on the final turns. The Swede left it late this time, a second photo finish in 2 heats. Four drop points on the last lap in 2 heats proved critical for Andrei Shishigov, but his fellow countryman Dmitry Komitsevich enjoyed a first race victory to move back into the provisional qualification positions in round 3. Sergei Karachintsev booked his place in the semi-finals with a third straight victory in Heat 13. The race was more notable for a first non-scoring ride of the weekend for Martin Hara-Hiltunen. The Swede was embroiled in a battle for second with his fellow countryman Ove Ledstrom, while Karachintsev up front escaped away. And as the World Championship newcomer pushed, he started to struggle on the rough inside line, the bike finally spitting him off on lap 3, leaving him scoreless from the heat. Jasper Iverma suffered a similar fate in Heat 14, losing the front end into turn 3 and dropping to a low side with a heavy impact into the barriers. The Dutchman was disqualified from the restaging and withdrew from his remaining scheduled outing. Dmitry Koltskov took a straightforward fourth victory in Heat 15, with Andrei Shishigov behind him securing a second runner-up place. But each on 2 points, Niklas Svensson and Gunther Bauer needed at least a scoring ride to keep alive hopes of a top 8 place. And it was Niklas Svensson who took the single point after a robust move on Bauer in the closing stages. Dmitry Komentsevich took his second race victory in Heat 16, where Harold Simon also moved on to 8 points, within touching distance of a semi-final place. Meanwhile, Stefan Svensson suffered a now familiar feeling of dropping backwards, this time into the clutches of Charlie Ebner, who kept up his weekend's record of scoring in every ride. Only the top 3 could be mathematically certain of their semi-final places with a round to spare, while Andrei Shishigov and Charlie Ebner were the only riders who could spoil the hopes of any of the provisional top 8. Charlie Ebner needed an unlikely race victory from Heat 17 to remain in with a chance of progression to the semi-finals, but predictably it was Daniil Ivanov who took the checkered flag. Ove Ledstrom also consolidated his top 8 ranking with a second place finish, holding off fellow countryman Niklas Svensson, who was eliminated. Martin Hara-Hiltunen got back to winning ways in Heat 18 to ensure a double-figure tally and his place in the top 8, pulling clear of fellow semi-finalist Harold Simon for a third win of the meeting. Austrian Simon completed his heat programme with a 5th runner-up position and 10 points, Gunther Bauer securing his 3rd point of the meeting in the minor places. Already eliminated coming into his final ride, Franz Zorn nonetheless showed a glimpse of his best form with a good move on Stefan Svensson for 2nd position in Heat 19. That place proved short-lived though, as home reserve Vladimir Cheblakov raised the roof of the Allau Ice Palace with a from-the-back 2nd place. The Kazakh moved past Stefan Svensson at the end of lap 2 for 3rd and produced a far greater shock by snatching the runner-up position from Franz Zorn on the final turns. Having recorded just 1 point from his opening 2 outings, Andrei Shishigov now needed a race win from Heat 20, with his direct rival Jimmy Olsen at the back. The Russian got that part of his wish, with the Swede never featuring in the battle, but 2nd place was as high as he could climb. Sergei Karachintsev had pulled clear in the early stages, but Dmitry Komentsevich dropped back behind him, allowing Shishigov to strike. The 2016 champion, though, remained calm and and repaid the compliment on the final turn for second place. Day 1 winner Dmitry Koltykov took a 15-point maximum to lead the qualifiers thanks to his Heat 1 victory over Sergei Karachintsev. The Russian bloc only disturbed by Martin Harahiltonen in fourth. Three non-Russians have qualified together in semi-final 1, and we will again have a Western European in the final on day 2. Dmitry Koltykov, the lone Russian off gate 1, 5 rides, 5 wins. You wouldn't get good odds on his transfer to the final. Martin Harahiltonen alongside him must be the favourite for back-to-back grand final appearances, having looked the pick of the challengers to the Russians this weekend. Gate 3 in white, Harold Simmons, second place in each of his 5 rides so far. Another runner-up position would be enough to see him into the final. And the outside gate in yellow, Ove Ledstrom, Heat 6 winner, is still yet to make his first final. Across the tapes then for semi-final 1, Koltykov, Harahiltonen, Simon and Ledstrom, 2 qualifiers to the grand final. And we are underway. Good start off the inside gate from Dmitry Koltykov, runs the pack wide. Simon goes for his favoured inside line and moves through into third position. So they're red, blue, white, yellow on track. Simon, though, is finding his way through down the inside of Martin Harahiltonen, very nicely coming off turn 4. The Swede bursts back on the inside line, the pair touch, and down goes Harold Simon, heavily into the straw bales on turn number 2. The Swede was looking for a move down the inside line, connected with Simon, but it is the Austrian who has been disqualified from the restaging. 3 riders only, without the disqualified Harold Simon. Dmitry Koltykov off gate 1, Martin Harahiltonen off gate 2, and Ove Ledstrom off the outside gate in yellow. We're guaranteed a Swede in today's grand final after the disqualification of Harold Simon. Semi-final number 1 for the second time of asking. Koltykov you'd expect to be the favourite. He's made a good start. Ledstrom's made an excellent one actually off the outside, but he can't get around the outside and drops down into third position. The riders in the rankings you might expect so far in this semi-final number 1. Harold Simmons threatened to spring a surprise in the initial running as Harahiltonen runs wide around turns 1 and 2, but he's not in too much danger from his fellow countryman Ove Ledstrom, dropping back in third position. And the gaps extending now between the riders. Dmitry Koltykov, the championship leader and favourite, out in front. Martin Harahiltonen in second place is going to make his second consecutive grand final. What a performance it's been this weekend in Astana for him. And Ove Ledstrom will pick up the consolation point in third, but won't progress any further towards today's grand final. 2 turns to go, and it's going to be Dmitry Koltykov with yet another race win, his 6th in succession here on day 2. Koltykov heads into the grand final as the favourite. A creditable second position for Martin Harahiltonen. That one was all settled on the opening lap as Ove Ledstrom dropped back in third. Harold Simon, the non-scorer there after his disqualification in semi-final number 1, which enabled Martin Harahiltonen a reprieve and qualification to the grand final. Dmitry Kometsevich has landed in a tough semi-final here after a slow start to the meeting, but that could also be an opportunity for him to dump out one of his main rivals before the final. Sergei Karachintsev, gate 1, just 1 defeat all meeting so far, all the way back in heat 1. Gate 2, Daniil Ivanov, 2013 and 2014 world champion. Gate 3 in white, Dmitry Kometsevich, the 2016 world champion. The outside gate, Jimmy Olsen, in the second semi-final appearance of his career. Already 1 Swede through to the final. It'll be tough for another to progress here in semi-final 2, the tougher of the 2 semi-finals without a doubt. Tapes up and away they go. Good start off the inside gate from Sergei Karachintsev. Ivanov is blocked out and Kometsevich passes the pair coming off turn 2. Dmitry Kometsevich leads us then. He's left a lot of room down the inside line, but Karachintsev can't take advantage at the end of the opening lap. He'll try again. Ivanov, meanwhile, building up his speed around the outside line as the front 2 break away ever so slightly. Karachintsev again looking for that move on the inside. Kometsevich too brave, running wide, and through down the inside comes Karachintsev. And that's killed the momentum of Dmitry Kometsevich as well. Kometsevich looks for the inside to try and repay the compliments on Karachintsev, but he's leaving a lot of room here for Daniil Ivanov, and he must be very careful because he's occupying the last of the qualification positions at present. Karachintsev, Komet-Savic and Ivanov in that order, as Ivanov cuts through down the inside off turn 2. Exactly as I said, Komet-Savic leaving too much room. Ivanov passes him. Komet-Savic tries to fight back on the final turn, but misses out on a place in the final. And it's Karachintsev and Ivanov, the wily campaigner Daniil Ivanov, making his way through down the inside. Komet-Savic was too bothered about chasing the race lead, and in the end, because of that, he's missed out on a place in the grand final. Karachintsev and Ivanov progress. Komet-Savic is eliminated. The second trophy of the campaign is up for grabs. Dmitry Koltykov lining up off gate 1 for the 4th time here today. A favourite for another win. Sergei Karachintsev, gate 2, currently second in this weekend's points totals, despite missing yesterday's podium. Daniil Ivanov off gate 3 in white, bidding for his first final win since the 2016 Kazakhstan Grand Prix. And Martin Hare-Hiltunen, the lowest scorer of this quartet, is the spoiler off the outside. Koltykov, Karachintsev, Ivanov and Hare-Hiltunen the lineup for the second final of the 2018 campaign. It's Ivanov who's made the best break off gate 3, but it's Koltykov who pushes alongside him to take the race lead. And Sergei Karachintsev capitalises to move through into second place. He's gone wide on turns 3 and 4, but Ivanov can't quite pull alongside at the end of the opening lap. So it's Koltykov, Karachintsev and Ivanov in that order. Hare-Hiltunen dropping back in 4th place. Doesn't look as though he's going to be able to make a second consecutive podium, but his day 1 exploits alone were absolutely outstanding. So he's almost the length of a straight back now from the 3 Russians, and the fight is over second because Koltykov has burst well clear. It's Karachintsev versus Ivanov. Ivanov not really making the starts in 2018 so far, although he made a decent one. Just got outfoxed on the first 2 turns by Koltykov in particular. Now Ivanov almost alongside Karachintsev. Last of the late movers, just as he was in the semi-finals, but Karachintsev blocked it out well down the back straight and holds on for second place. Only just in the end, Ivanov with a good run on the final couple of laps there. But he's not going to deny Dmitry Koltykov his second win of the 2018 campaign. Second going the way of Sergei Karachintsev. It's been an excellent performance from him all weekend. He and Martin Hare-Hiltunen, the stars of the show really. But it's Dmitry Koltykov who continues as he left off in 2017 with back-to-back wins in 2018. 3 race points in the grand final ahead of Karachintsev, Ivanov and Hare-Hiltunen. Sergei Karachintsev produces an excellent damage limitation performance against the unbeaten Dmitry Koltykov, dropping just 2 points in 7 rides. Meanwhile, 3 Western Europeans put in double-figure scores to provide solid competition to the dominating Russian leaders. Unfortunately today I couldn't do any better than third because of some mechanical problems, but I hope to do better next time. I'm quite satisfied with both days of the event. This is a great city and a great track. It's been good. Today everything was perfect and I'm so happy that I got a maximum. The ice was perfect, the venue is brilliant, so I congratulate the organisers. I also want to thank the fans, my family and my sponsors.
Вот, и полуфинал, и финал. И я очень рад этому результату. Спасибо моей команде, моим механикам, спонсорам.
4 drop points in the 2 finals have cost Sergei Karachintsev in what has otherwise been an impressive weekend. 2 separate fights have emerged in the standings in the first of 5 2018 events, with 3 riders separated by 4 points in the battle for thirds. But it's advantage Dmitry Koltykov once again. Back-to-back victories, the perfect start to his title defence, ahead of the World Cup break and the second individual final in 2 weeks' time.